And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
As a reviewer, I have my likes and dislikes, and I get tired of the same themes popping up over and over again. For example, we have too many zombie games. And the theme that I've ragged on a lot in the past is that what I call trading in the Mediterranean. It doesn't always happen in the Mediterranean, but there's some sea and we're trading resources for other resources to get points at the end of the game. Well, Concordia is a game that is exactly about that, trading in the Mediterranean, and it is in the Mediterranean. And the cover does not do it any justice either. The cover looks like some mannequins that people set up, and one is offering the other one coins for some cloth. All right, great. But I needed to play this game because I heard people raving about it, and I heard that it was one of the best games of 2013. So with that in mind, let's see if it is. So here's the board. Actually, this is one side of the board. I'll show you the other side in a bit. And at the beginning of the game, semi-randomly, you're going to be putting resource tokens that will be placed on the different cities on the board. And you'll notice that the cities are grouped into different regions. For example, here we have Spania, which has 3 cities. Each city has 2 or 3. Each of these regions also has a spot up here on the board where it shows you the highest resource of that region. The resources are grouped into different values. Cloth is the most valuable. It's worth 7 coins, then wine, then iron, then grain, then bricks. And so this shows you the highest. Up here are some cards. I'll talk more about them in a second. Over here you can see the different resources and the money that's used in the game. And here are the different resources. They all look pretty good, different shapes, except the cloth is like just apparently it's straight cloth. We call it tile because, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal. But anyhow, each player is going to have their own starting board down here. And on this starting board, you're going to have 2 people and 2 ships. And then you'll start with 1 of each resource, except you start with 2 grain. Players also start with a handful of cards. And they start with a person and a ship on the board. Now this is the whole point of this game. You're going to take these cards into your hand. And on your turn, and turn's just going to go clockwise forever and ever till the game ends, you're going to play a card from your hand and take the action on that card. As you play these cards and take the action, you cannot play them again until you play the Tribune card, which allows you to take all the cards back into your hand. Now remember those cards that I showed you at the top of the board. Those cards are cards that you'll be able to buy as the game progresses, and when you buy those cards will come in your hand and you'll be able to use those and the abilities that those cards have. Now, these cards will give you special abilities, but they also provide scoring opportunities at the end of the game. For example, here, each Jupiter card that you have, that shows Jupiter on the bottom of it, that card is going to score you an extra point for every city that you've built on the board over the course of the game. So if I have 4 Jupiter cards, basically I get 4 points for every city that I have on the board. And Mars gives me 2 points for every person or ship that I have on the board. So if I manage to get all 6 of them, and I have 4 Mars cards, that would be 8 points times each of those 6 people on the board. That would be 48 points. So when you take cards, you're trying to take them for their special abilities, but you also are taking them for the points that they're going to score at the end of the game. Let's take a look at some of the cards. The Architect card here lets you move your colonists and build in cities that are adjacent to your colonists. So your colonists all start here, and when you move your colonists, you can move equal to the number that you have on the board. The ships can only move on the blue squiggly lines, and the people can only move on the brown ones. So let's say, for example, I wanted to move 1, 2, and I moved there because I have 2 people. Or I could have moved my ship 1, and I could have moved my dude 1 more. At that point, then I can build cities, and then I would look at this card to see the cost of the city. So let's say I wanted to build in these 2 cities, because they're both adjacent to my guy. They stay on the lines between the cities. In the grain city, I would need to pay a brick, a grain, and 2 denarii. If I wanted to build in a cloth city, I need to pay a brick and a cloth and 5 denarii. So that's a much more expensive city to build in. And you can see that brick is used to build in all the cities. When you build, you simply will place piece of your color there. If someone else wants to build in the spot that someone has placed there, they have to pay the same amount, except they have to pay double the money or triple the money as time goes by. So you'll see that there very rarely will be 3, 4, or 5 cities built, but you might want to do that because of the benefits they give you. Each player starts with 2 prefect cards, and what the prefect lets you do is it lets you pick a region up on the board. So let's say I pick Gallia, and I flip this tile over, and that's going to give me 1 wine for flipping that over. Then we look at the people in Gallia, and let's say I was the blue player, I would also get 1 iron and 1 more wine. So that'd be a good move for me. It would give me 2 wine resources and 1 iron resource. The yellow player would get 1 wine resource, and the green player would get 1 grain resource. So this is kind of a cool aspect here, because as you're flipping over these tiles, you are giving resources to other players, so you have to watch as people play the prefects. Now, as these tiles get flipped over, okay, they're going to show coins on the other side. When you play a prefect card, instead of flipping over a resource, you can instead reset all the ones that have been flipped over, getting coins for each one. So here we have 2, 4, 6, 7. I can flip all these back over to get 7 coins. It's a great way to get money. Playing the Senator card allows me to buy more cards to place in my hand to use. I already talked about that. The cost of these cards is put on the cards themselves. So you can see here to buy this Mason card, which is a card no one starts with, and when you play this, it gives you bricks for every brick city that you have. But the cost of this card is printed right here at the bottom. I need to pay a food to get this card, but I also have to look underneath it, and 1 resource of my choice. Now, as cards are bought, they will slide down and become cheaper, but you can see that if you buy the card over here, another prefect, then you have to pay 1 wine and 2 cloth. So, but I mean, I might want another prefect in my deck, or I can go all the way down here where I simply have to pay, for this colonist, I simply have to pay food with no extra resources. When I play the Mercator card, I get 3 money. I've been calling it denarii, it's sestertii. And then you can trade up to 2 types of goods. You can buy or sell, and the cost is listed there. Now, you only have room for 8 goods, but once you get more of these people on the board, then there will be more room for goods that are in your thing. So this is a way to get goods and to make money. Some of the other cards that you can buy are the console, where you can just buy 1 card. The one that you start with lets you buy 2, but this one you only need to pay the price on the card, not the price underneath that. Then there's also the colonist, who lets you build new colonists in your cities, and it costs a grain and iron for each one, or you can take 5 coins plus 1 for each colonist you have. At some point, players are going to want to play the Tribune, which lets you take back all the cards that you've played, and for each card over 3, you get 1 coin back. So the longer you wait to play the Tribune, the more money you get back, and also the Tribune lets you build another colonist. A colonist can be a person or a ship. The game will continue until all the cards that are coming out here have been bought by the players, or when one person gets all of their houses on the board. At that point, there's one final round, and the person who ended the game will get this 7-point card. Players will then use these other cards up here to see how many points they've got through various things, like having cities on the board, having cities in different regions, having different resource types, having colonists on the board, etc., etc. Add those together, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Oh, that's right, I didn't show you the other side of the board. Okay, the other side of the board is very similar, plays the exact same way. There's fewer boards and resources, and it's basically a map of Italy from this angle. Now, I don't know if Concordia would make my top 10 list, and it wouldn't, because 2013 was a fantastic year, but Concordia is a solid, fun game. I was really kind of surprised about that, but after hearing the mechanisms for the game, and by the way, the game is like 4 pages of rules. I love that. I mean, a lot of the stuff's on the cards, and my explanation was a little longer, but I mean, because there is a lot going on, but it's not that difficult of a game to understand and teach. But I should have known after reading rules I'd like the game, because first of all, you have that hand of cards, and you play a card, and you can't play that card again until you play another card that lets you put all the cards back in your hands. I love that mechanism, and why don't more designers use it? Because it's fantastic. I mean, it's cool because you sit there and you're like, oh, I want to play that card again. And there's one card I didn't show you in the rules explanation. I don't know why, but it's a great card. Fantastic card. When you play the card, it lets you use the ability of anyone else's card that they've played. Well, that's awesome. Because if I take a card and you're like, oh man, he got that card, that's really cool, that's okay. I'll wait till you play it, and then I'll copy it. Really neat idea. I also love the idea of the prefect and flipping over the thing to get resources, because it's great. You can get a resource. You can flip one over where you don't even have any cities just to get that resource. Of course, you're giving the people there those resources, and that's a great mechanism because it keeps you interested in the game at all times. So you're like, oh wow, I got some resources. Thanks, man. But they flip over to coins, and eventually someone's like, there's 8 coins. I gotta flip those back over. So it's kind of like, who's gonna wait? How long are we gonna wait till someone flips them over and gets the coins again? Which then, of course, makes them eligible to be flipped over again to get the resources. Moving out, building cities. Okay, we've seen that sort of thing before, and that wouldn't have impressed me that much. It fits in this game, but it's that prefect. It's the being able to copy other people's. It's being able to get new cards to your hand and play those. And then I really am a fan of the scoring system, even though it's wonky in the sense that it doesn't make much sense thematic. I do like having the different cards and matching those up to how I score. This reminds me of another of Mac Gerdts games, Hamburger, and how the scoring worked in that one. So all in all, this is a solid game. Now, I do think 5 players is a little longer than I'd like it to be. I think 4 players is the sweet spot for this game. And I still think the cover isn't doing it any justice, or the size of the box. Come on now, guys. This size of box is outdated. But still, it works really well. And I am not surprised that people are just going over and over the game, because the resources will be different each game. The buying and selling, the interaction is an interaction that Eurogamers would like, because you're going to look and you certainly interact with other people, but you're not necessarily getting in their face. But it's like, who wants to build to this spot first? Oh, you're going to give me resources when you take some. What cards did you take? I'm going to play off your cards. And that's some cool interaction, because you're doing your own thing, but at the same time, you're really focused on what everyone else is doing. So even though I'm not a huge fan of the 5-player game, I certainly wasn't bored during it. And it seems like every turn, and this is one of the best selling points of the game, every turn you have an interesting thing you can do. You never sit there and go, oh, well, this is my past turn. No, there's always an interesting card. All the cards are cool. And even when you put a card down to take them back, you get money that turn, hopefully. And so, hooray. And so, a lot of cool things. I will recommend this. While certainly not my typical thematic style of game, good one. And that's Concordia.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!
Do.